another person that he thanked was Joe Rogan, probably the biggest podcaster in the country, massive Spotify deals. And now that has got many people, including, I guess, friend of the show. Is he friend of the show, Paige? Hopefully he's a friend of the show. Ellie Mistel tweeted, people saying Harris should have done Rogan are missing the point. That wouldn't have helped her. Liberals need to build their own Joe Rogan. Someone who can speak to the people as he speaks to without being a guy who wants to kiss to billionaires like Elon Musk. So now, I don't know if Ellie meant for this to kick off an entire discussion, but now everyone is talking about how we get the Rogan of the left. This is, ladies and gentlemen, Rogan of the left. First of all, do we need a Rogan of the left? We can unpack that, but maybe briefly. What do you think, Chloe?
I don't think so, because once you lift somebody to that level, they will always veer off the course. So never idolize a single person, because you give one person that much power and then the audience gets thrown off a cliff wherever they change their philosophy. So no, we need to stop trying to replicate what they do. And also, I mean, I don't want to go too deep into this, but I think the liberal version of anything isn't going to work, because liberals feel like, why do I have to wax poetic about this? That should be basic understanding. Like, why do I have to sit on a podcast and talk about why you shouldn't be killing people, babies, in tents? Like, why? You, like it
Totally
doesn't make sense to have to convince people of basic human decency.
I mean, also the problem is there's a responsibility that liberals and leftists and progressives feel they have to inform people. Joe Rogan, with the biggest podcast in the nation, feels no responsibility to inform people. That's not what the show is about. It's about, again, just sort of like being, I think Matt told me, like, so open-minded, your brain is leaking out of your skull, just like talking about issues like a guy who's gotten hit in the head a lot, and he has. I mean, and it is being very mainstream. And I was, someone occurred to me who, like, I think could have a similar, appeal. But like, I do think Charlemagne is as messy and kind of like flip, and, but he's also, like, broadly, I think, more of a progressive guy. So I think Charlemagne the God is like a decent example, but even that isn't like big enough. Here's my Rogan of the left, because that's the other thing is, number one, to your point, is like, in order to even get there, you kind of have to be a right-wing a-hole and accept hand over fist, obviously, corporate money, but also not care any responsibility to your audience, punch down, punch left, punch, like, make fun of women, make fun of people of color, be like weirdo anti-vax, again, platform Nazis. Like, there's so many things that lead up to this point. But I also think there's something about being massive. So for me, I'm like, can we get like Haktua Girl to, like, be a socialist, or, Claudia Conway, who is, Kellyanne Conway's daughter. Like, she said she was a socialist once. Now she's a Playboy bunny. Let's get her, like, give her a podcast deal. Like, it can't necessarily be overtly political. It's just like, I'm asking questions, and maybe I eat glue too.
Yeah. I think it's just showing that you have a well-rounded experience and life isn't doom and gloom. I think that the right loves to, like you said, fearmonger, and people feed into that stuff. And then the opposite of that is like, here I am living my life and feeding into my community and protecting my loved ones and building my little garden and, learning how to, moisturize my skin with, tallow, now that everybody's doing it, like these trad ones. It's like, what, like, it's like it's just living your life and showing that everything isn't doom and gloom. I feel like that is part of the resistance, right? Because if you can hold up something that shines an example of life isn't terrible, you can live with people who don't agree with you, philosophies or religion. Like, like, it doesn't have to be all one way. And I think that is living your life. And so when you live your life and then try to put that on a podcast, I don't know. I think people just need to go outside.
Well-rounded, I think, is true. Well, yes. Number one, we need to go outside. But I do agree with you that, like, being well-rounded, if you're like, he's a comedian, he's an MMA fighter, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's true. Like, you really, and this show, I'm guilty of it. I just said I like Minions, but have I talked about the Minions? No. Should
Let's
I?
talk about the Minions, girl.
Probably.
Yes.
Let's just only talk like no,
It's
but
time to talk about these things because
it's
I think also now that people are tuning out, right? We realize that the mainstream media, they're just going to kiss the ring because they don't want their freaking licenses or permits to be revoked or their FCC clearances. Like now they have stuff on the line, right? If you didn't bow down before the, the Dark Lord, is your is your bonus still coming? And so now we just have to like opt out of that news cycle because they're just going to keep feeding into the things that are going to keep them on the air. And
yeah.
so I think a part of that is just like living your life and doing the things that you want to do and showing that to prove to the other ones that one, I'm still alive, I'm not bothered. I'm doing the best that I can despite of the restrictions that are being placed upon me.
Sure.
And you too can enjoy life if you get out of that doom and gloom cycle.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard because we, like, have to hold these things at the same time because we just talked about, like, mass deportations, but I totally agree with you that people need to, like, find joyful things and do comedy and support, like, but also, like, there's part of me that's like, "But when is the revolution? Why not tomorrow? Let's go." Like, so I am I
It's
contain
always at the same time. This is the only thing that allows me to keep going is that everything always is happening at the same time, right? There was the
Yeah,
Dark Ages, and then there was great works of arts that came out of the Dark Ages. There was a plague, and it was great, books that we still study in antiquities courses. Like there's always something being built out of doom and gloom. And I truly believe that America had to be set on this course for us to take a step back to realize that things are way more broken and we have been drinking the Kool-Aid for far too long because we have been complacent. And now that our own personal rest and security is being threatened, now we got to like feel the way the rest of the world feels when they hear America's knocking at the door. And
yeah,
so it's time to resist, and a part of that resistance is to be your best self because
yeah,
if you
reclaim some
leave it
humanity.
yes, because we need our humanity because humanity is the only thing that's going to get us through. Humanity is going to be the difference of you seeing your neighbor being pulled off a bus and stepping into their defense or being like, "Hey girl, so you don't need your apartment, right? I'm going to go in there and clear it out for you and take what I want because I know you got a nice TV."
I feel like people will do that to each other. I do. Jesse Drinks, who's a member on YouTube, so thank you, says we would create a Joe Rogan and then most of us would stop watching as soon as they say something wrong. Not everyone agrees with. Let's be honest. Yes. And then cry face. It's true. Like, it's the reason, I joke a lot about not being able to do a Jan 6 is because we would all, like, splinter off into different podcast groups. Like, like we don't. And here's the thing, I'm not willing to be like, oh yeah, let's have the Joe Rogan of the left, believe in economic populism, yada yada yada, but just thinks like trans people should be restricted and should be, trans affirming care should go away and gender affirming care should go away. Like, I don't believe in sacrificing parts of the broad coalition to win other parts. To me, the biggest thing is the people who stayed home from voting, the people who are gettable, the new younger generations. Like, you know, uh, I just I just think that, and when I play into that, I just sound like a centrist. I just sound like
Mhm.
Pelosi being like, it's about identity politics. We need to stop talking about it. And it's just like, you know,
No.
um, I'm not willing to sacrifice certain communities to gain others. And maybe that makes me
A human being.
intolerant, but
No, that
right.
makes you a human being. You should never have to there should never be a sacrifice. See, and that's the problem, and even when we talked about immigration earlier, even in the Black community, I've heard anti-immigration sentiments from Black people because it's like they're coming here and they're getting this and we're not getting this. And
Right.
it's like that's the game. The game is to make you feel like you should have more than someone else. And the truth of the matter is there is more than enough to go around. I fly around this country and guess what? There's a lot of land, a lot of empty ass land.
And it
There's
all
no
votes
reason.
red. Haven't
Yes.
you seen all the red in this country,
Yeah,
Chloe?
right. And you fly over and it's crickets. So yes, there is more than enough space, land, and resources in this nation if we all work together and gave people their fair share. That's the issue, is that people don't want other people to have what they have because they feel that they are better than for whatever reason they have been told. So until we get rid of that myth, then we'll never be able to have a conversation about the true future of America or the world. And I don't think it's up to of a leftist podcaster, it's up to a political party to actually do the things that the people who vote them in want them to do. Why do you need a podcast to make a politician look good? Just be a good politician.
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/bitchuation room. Do it.